is a special night. We are celebrating all things Auburn in a very special way. If you love uniforms, if you love history, if you've been paying attention on social media as of late, there's been a special anniversary for a even more special person that we're going to be talking about this live stream, a 10-year anniversary of the Auburn Uniform Database coming up right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, and I would say happy birthday, I guess, but it's not your birthday, Clint Richardson, but the Auburn Uniform Database's 10-year birthday. He is sporting the logo on the YouTube right now on a t-shirt. We've got a lot of things that we want to show you, talk to you about, and just kind of, I guess, walk down memory lane to a little bit.
Pretty much.
This is your show, Clint. How does it feel? This is your moment.
I mean, it was funny yesterday. We were joking, like, I celebrate the birthday of my website more than I celebrate my own birthday.
I mean, that's I don't know how you should feel about that. Like, I mean, I would hope that you would celebrate your birthday a little bit more, but
Nah, who cares?
It's okay. Well, I mean, I was trying to give you a little bit of something. But yes, obviously,
that can come and go. This is what matters, really.
I would say to the people that are watching this show, particularly who follow your stuff, yes, maybe this is the more important thing, as sad and morbid as that is to say. But regardless of that, we are happy to be here. We are happy to be celebrating 10 years of the Auburn Uniform Database and a much needed service and companion to the Auburn experience, as we like to talk about here on all of our content. And so this is very much an appropriate avenue for us to head down and talk about all these things. So as you're coming into the stream, especially if you're watching live, you can do this on the replay too. Please do make sure you hit it down there in the comment section where you're watching from. Check in with us, smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content, if you think we've earned it. And those things are always very much appreciated. If nothing else, smash the like button for the Auburn Uniform Database. I think that's a win in of itself right there. So some people checking in right now. We appreciate you guys being here to talk about Clint. So as I said to Clint, this is really his show. There is no agenda for this. There is no plan. So I don't know if you are happy with that, Clint. I don't know if you are, worried that I didn't come in prepared for this, but really I just kind of wanted to go wherever it is that you wanted to go on this particular show. So what feels appropriate to you to begin a celebration of the Auburn Uniform Database? Is it a walk down memory lane? Is it talking about how you've been celebrating it? What's on your mind?
I mean, I wish you were more prepared, because I prepared for yesterday, not tonight. So no, I think I mean, we could just start from the beginning,
Take me back.
Gosh, this was, how many years ago did you and I meet?
It would have been, you came on. So listen, okay, let me plug real quick. The Auburn Roots podcast, which is coming back at some point. Clint is featured on there on episode 30, I believe it is. I have that numbering right.
Yep.
And you told us at that time the version of this story. When I say the version, I mean there was about a year and change extra that you've now added to your history. So maybe a few things are different. So if you want the full history, I would recommend you go there. I would recommend you go to his site, some things that we're going to talk about tonight. But give us the cliff notes for people that want to know about Clint Richardson, about the Auburn Uniform Database.
Well,
how did we start?
I can't even remember when you and I met, but the Auburn Uniform Database started in the summer of 2013. It was the summer after my freshman year at Auburn, and I kind of started an annual summer tradition for a couple of years that season. Just, I needed something to do. I needed some kind of hobby to get me through the summer, and something to just hold my attention. So what really started as just like, what did the Auburn basketball team wear at certain points? Because I could Google it and nothing came up. Photos were blurry, and there were differences and nothing was really well dated. So what you see today actually started as the Auburn basketball uniform database. Um, I had seen a couple of other sites online that, were dedicated to documenting and detailing and archiving just random uniforms, whether it was all of Major League Baseball, all of the NFL, or some random D2 basketball squad. Um, and I thought, why not Auburn? Like Auburn could use something like this. So my summer project was I had some resources, I had time, I know how to use Photoshop, I know how to play around with websites. Like let's put together something and just kind of dive into what Auburn uniforms looked like back in the day and kind of see if I can't nail down exactly when some of these were worn. And of course, like I said, that was the summer of 2013. Once football started, um, of course, that was a whirlwind of the season. But I quickly realized that like there's more to this than just basketball. And so football was added pretty much 6 months later, and started diving into that, and it's just continued to expand to what we're doing today is celebrating 10 years of this website. um, and it's been such a journey, and this thing has just exploded much more than I ever imagined it would from day one.
Isn't it very much a sign of the times how you got started? And when I say that, I'm talking about the times for Auburn athletics. You thought about basketball before football. And look, you came alive around the time, not separated from the championship. But Bruce Pearl had kind of come onto the scene as well. So it kind of makes sense a little bit, but it's just wild to me that in a world where we all acknowledge that football is king, no matter how bad it is, even after the last 2 years, it always will drive the traffic. Basketball is what started your interest. I
Yeah, I
find
mean,
that
and
fascinating.
it's partly because, as we all know, the Auburn football uniform is untouchable, and it has been for the last couple of decades. But basketball was different. Basketball was kind of shrouded in a cloud of mystery for me. So the 2012-13 season was a new set of uniforms for Auburn. And, if you remember the Alan Payne, Josh Wallace, Chris Denson, KT Harrell uniforms that had the striping on one shoulder and then the opposite leg of the shorts, I liked it. And I wanted to know more about like how long did previous designs, how long were they worn? Um, the the tiger striped collar ones, like when did those actually get worn? Because I've always heard dates, and then I seen pictures of like Marquise Daniels wearing a couple of different looks, and they're just so out of character for Auburn. Just really trying to nail it down for my own curiosity, and that's just where it started. I feel
Mhm.
like you know, one of these kind of what you need with something like this is you just need the curiosity and you just need to start.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the bigger things when I talk to people about content creation in general is we all want to get something perfect. And when I say this, I'm speaking about me, my own experiences. So I'm not saying that you're doing this wrong if you're out there listening. I've lived these wrong things.
Everybody has. This isn't just you, though.
Right, right. So this is a common problem that happens. Everybody wants to have it perfect before you get this thing started. And sometimes you just kind of need to put it out there and let it grow, let it change, let it get better over time. And so you can, walk through a history and see how you've grown and changed. And you've done that with your celebration here and your posts that you have out, kind of looking at how things have progressed. But before we kind of move forward, I I know how we officially got more than just you. We got you on as a guest for one episode. I'm sure it was a football related thing. But then I began to ask the question, can we do more than just one show? Boy,
Right.
was that a mistake. uh, not from you, not because you were the going to be the guest or the co-host of that
He
show.
regrets meeting me, everybody.
No, 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 I do not. But um, that's kind of you were the guinea pig to see how this would
Right.
mesh, what everybody else wanted to get into. And because of that, we've gotten the opportunity to do more and more stuff around uniforms, around history. Well, you and I have conversations all the time about what can we do maybe history wise. So for those of you that like that type of stuff, no, we're always talking about it. Just haven't pinned
Always.
it. We haven't pinned it down quite yet.
We need to do more of it.
We do. We've always talked about too about doing I don't know what you call it, a seminar, a day seminar. We just talk
I've
about
symposium, seminar, conference, whatever, just Auburn history. Everybody
and
comes down. Let's just do it. I want to do it so badly.
and that's the thing that I think that people don't need to miss in this. Well, people will say, "Well, it's just uniforms. Get over it." Well, it's more than that. It's our history. And I think I'm going to butcher your quote that you've used with me a lot. How can you appreciate our history if you're not aware of
Yep.
some of the nuances of it? So you probably said it way more eloquently than
you
I just
you
did.
you can't preach history if you don't know history.
There you go. So that's what I want people to walk away from. Yes, it is about, for you in this site, uniforms at its core, but it's a deeper, richer experience than just
Well, and
that.
I think that's a good point. It doesn't really matter as long as it's, safe and legal and ethical. It doesn't really matter what avenue you take to pursue anything. If you like coding and you want to make an app, or if you like painting and you sell them, you enjoy painting, but you get to pursue it through selling your artwork. It's just, I like Auburn history, and I like aesthetics, and I like uniforms, and this is just the avenue that it channels through.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has evolved and it has changed. And I've gotten the privilege to watch some of that change from a somewhat exclusive seat, since we talk a lot of,
You've seen the majority of it.
I know I've seen a lot of things that never people will never see,
Oh
but I know still as a fellow content creator, sometimes we leave things in the background that even we don't want other people to see because we're just toying with things
Yeah.
and taking ideas. All right, so let's do this. So you've got things that you want to show us tonight, and I think we're going to bounce around to a bunch of different topics. But I just wanted to spend a little minute at the top, kind of talking about how it all began and things like that. But we can get back to some of that too. Um, what do you want to show us first? I can pull it up whenever you're
Just
ready.
pull it up right now. Let's start with kind of number one. Let's just do the reveal.
There you go. Right on screen right now, we have the 10 popping up with the AUD in the middle of the 0, a decade of uniforms and various, what should we call those? I'm going to butcher it
They're
for Avery.
icons. They're icons.
Icons that are spread out amongst the years you began until now, a
And
decade.
I'm glad you mentioned Avery. You got to give a big shout out to Avery if you're looking in the comments on YouTube. Neji11 in the comments section, but did such a good job with this entire suite, with the logo, with the icons, with the pattern. If you can see it on this video, um, God, I love it.
Yeah, it's
It
really
came
good.
out so well. It looks great on a t-shirt. Um, and I'm excited for what all this is going to get used for.
And not to say that, you're not capable of great things as well, but I saw this and I was like, I wonder if Avery helped him with that. I'm just going to be
I
honest.
Well, so here's that peek behind the curtain. I had this circled on my calendar for about 2 years. Of
Yeah.
10 is coming up. Let's start prepping on it now. And probably about 6 months ago, I sat down to actually do it, and I could not figure it out. I told, when I commissioned Avery, I told him I have two rules. It has to have a 10, and it has to have the current AUD logo in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he matched it up so much better than I thought it would ever be done. And then I came back for him, was like, all right, please do an animation for me because I don't know how to do that either. Um, and just he blew it out of the park with this. And I've been wanting to do a pattern that was, AUD specific and related, but not too generic and cheesy or too, licensing issues. And this is just perfect. So, if you've seen the website, if you've seen a lot of the stuff that I've been posting in the last couple of days, have a whole new line of merch celebrating the anniversary, including um, t-shirt, hoodies, shorts, and pants that include just all over print with the pattern on every inch. And I've got two of them coming in a couple of days, and I cannot wait to try them out.
So this is a great opportunity to plug. If you've enjoyed this decade of uniforms and you want to see it for another decade, you need to help support him by checking those out. You can do it by visiting auburnuniforms.com. We've even got a link to the main article, which will get you to the site and anything else that you need already listed in the description of this video. So make sure you
And
check that
if
out.
you use the discount code birthday until
Birthday.
Friday, you get 15% off your order.
There you go. It's available for you right now if you want to use it until that point. So don't miss out
I mean,
on
look
that.
at this.
I
Look
know.
how cool this is.
You know what, these shirts right here, they remind me of those kind of Hawaiian style shirts. You know what I'm talking about? But like, I think of these certain individuals, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but like that always wear those type of shirts. And then I saw those, I was like, I know 5 individuals right now I can think of. They're like, would see this shirt and be like, yes, give me this, because it's like exactly it fits their personality too. So it's a really cool, unique look, and I love it.
So, you were talking earlier about the just putting stuff out there. And if you visit auburnuniforms.com, you can see this image full sized, and we'll bring it up too. But this is the last 10 years of website design. And oh my gosh, Kyle, was this first one horrendous?
Yeah, let me put it up a little
Damn,
closer for.
I don't need to say that. I mean, this is
Wait,
web design that's bad. This is bad Photoshop. It's bad template work. It's awful. And then this was 2014, but you would think it was 1994 with the background images. And um, what you can't tell is this is the women's basketball jerseys on a hanger, and then what's underneath all the content is the football away game locker setup. And then we went to the stripes,
yep.
and
How do you feel about those stripes?
it's okay once, but it repeated the entire
Yep.
way down. Um, and that was 2017, and then in 2018, we moved over to a brand new layout. So this was the 2020 design. That was pretty much similar throughout those last couple of years.
I was about to say, this is where you took kind of a very familiar look at this point.
Yes, yeah. And then just a couple of months ago, rebuilt it from the ground up, and again, just a much easier back end process, a much easier front end, aesthetic. Um, and if you go and you check it out now, this is what you're going to see, except with the 10 on the top of the site now. So that's when you talk about putting something out there, even if it's bad, it's bad.
I think in the time we don't know that it's bad. You got to think times have changed to capabilities, access to tools has maybe gotten simpler or less premium based in some ways. So I think that's helped as well. And just us exploring and being creative is also, made us get better. Now, Clint and Avery are miles ahead of where I'll ever be. But you can see how something starts. So just put it
Well,
out
and
there.
and even with your stuff, Kyle, you'll see that, if anybody's actually watching and wants to go back and look at the ETC network stuff, like
Do not tell them to watch the
they
first videos on this channel.
let's not do that. But I mean, your graphics have come a long way in the last couple of years, and they will continue. I mean, I'm working on redoing some of my graphic sets as we speak, and
Yeah.
I'm very excited for those. So
I did go back and watch one of the early when we started actually doing these more regularly. It was pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty awful. Anyway, enough about that. You guys can ask questions throughout. Avery posed a question that we'll bring up right now. Can't Clint talk about this process of gathering info and how it's changed? I guess he meant can, and how it's changed in the decade. That's a big question. Can you answer that?
that's a very hard question. So the internet, there are no ends of the internet that I won't go through to get the information I need.
Have you been on the dark web?
If I have, I don't know how to get there again. um, but I mean, you start with a lot of the primary sources, auburntigers.com, the photo galleries are your best friend for something like this. And from there, the newspaper websites, if they have good photographers like the OA News and Montgomery Advertiser do, they'll post really good galleries after every game. I mean, after every single sporting event, that I track, which is baseball, men's and women's basketball, softball, soccer, volleyball, football, obviously, baseball, um, gymnastics. I go through and I find photos and I save them and I date them and I tag them with the photographer and all sorts of details like that, so that I always have a growing collection that I can find when I need, and I don't have to rely on it being preserved online by somebody else. It's all mine. Um, so you start there, and then thankfully I have access to newspapers.com, which is a massive, massive archive of the newspapers from, you know, decades, centuries ago. We can find 1,800 newspapers in this country, if not older, and that is such a great resource. It's pricey, and thankfully I have access to it. But um, and then we've got to dig and dig, and thank God. I joke all the time that thank God I picked Auburn, because Auburn has done such a good job of actually digitally archiving a lot of their stuff. The Auburn libraries and the special collections have every single glomerata digitized and
So do
searchable.
you, if I'm looking at it in the back, basically.
Yep.
Hey,
I
hey,
have a lot of them.
I got about 4 right there.
I
Right
got
there.
about 100. Um, so that is such an invaluable resource for something like this, and um, it's knowing the right places to look, it's knowing the right times to look, it's knowing the right keywords, and it's very frustrating when you can't find what you want, but that elation when you're able to find it just feels so good. And if you'll pull up Avery's other comment, he did help me. I texted him one night. I said, I got cash on the line if you can find this picture, because I am dying. I've knocked on every door, and I gave him a higher price than I probably should have. And
But now
um,
you know your limit.
nah, that was a little high. Within an hour, he uh, he sent me the photo that I was looking for, and he had just looked in under one rock that I hadn't found, and I had to pay up, so it was worth it to get the information. But yeah, it's the digging is a lot of fun, and I often joke that you know my mentality kind of goes in cycles and what I want to do. Some days I want to create content, some days I want to write, some days I just want to design, some days I want to work in Photoshop and actually build the template and the mock-ups. And then other days all I want to do is just research. I
Yeah.
just want to sit at my computer for hours and dig. It's so enjoyable when you're in the mood, and you can do so much with it.
And I think that's a big point to put here is yes, this is a lot of work, but you enjoy it. And I think that's
Absolutely.
the thing that I think a lot of people miss is they'll get passionate about something that they want to create or do. You got to make sure that it's something that you truly love doing, because when it becomes a chore is when you start to lose that passion. And so even in those moments where Avery has to be paid to help you, it's worth it because you are so passionate about documenting Auburn's history
Right.
through its aesthetics.
I mean, and that helped me. I have photographic evidence of what Auburn wore in, gosh, every basketball game since 2010, every
Mhm.
baseball game since 2015, and every football game dating back to the 30s,
Yeah.
maybe the mid 40s. But that's, when I can just go into my Excel sheet and see confirmed down the list, gosh, it feels so good. I one thing that I, when writing about uniforms or creating content, it's like I I wish that this kind of resource was available for every school, and that's kind of the pipe dream. But I want to be able to say that for the first time ever, Auburn wears white face mask. And the only reason you can say that is if you know that it's a fact.
There you go.
I can't talk, I can't say for fact that, you know, Auburn has never played a team wearing black and gold.
Mhm.
if I don't had that resource discovered. Or, like with Ole Miss. Last year it was 2 years ago. Ole Miss wore their powder blue helmets against Auburn for the first time since they brought them back,
Mhm.
and I'm able to figure out this is the first time since this year, since 1993, that they had worn them against Auburn, and those definitive facts are so much more hard hitting than it's been more than 10 years since Ole Miss has worn powder blue against Auburn. Like, that's not fun. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything. Like, if you're actually going to talk about that, know definitively what it is. And even if it's just a silly thing like uniforms, that's your resource. There's a resource available for it.
Well, and the other thing too is you don't know where that rabbit hole of figuring out the first time Ole Miss wore powder blue against Auburn, if it's ever happened before, when you're researching that, what else you're going to uncover about
Exactly.
history between Auburn and Ole Miss. You don't know what that rabbit hole is going to take you
Well,
to.
that's a great point. I've had family that's lived in Jacksonville, Florida, and visited Jacksonville, Florida for years. And when Auburn played in a number of Gator Bowls in the '70s with Coach Jordan, like there's a lot of like my family went, and there's a lot of stories that I didn't know about. And um, the end zones were painted width long graphic of the largest gator in the world, and it's amazing. And um, reading up on it was actually a band history book that I was reading, and they're telling the story about how the Texas band cheer was, "Hey, what time is it? It's 10 o'clock, and Auburn still sucks." And after Auburn was just kicking Texas's butts, the Auburn band yelled that out to crickets. And
Jeez.
those are just the kind of stories that just aren't shared a whole lot. And again, that's the kind of story that just needs to continue to get shared. And it goes deeper than that. Uh, Pat Sullivan and Archie Manning played each other in one of those Gator Bowls, and in that same Gator Bowl, Suge and Vaught Hemingway didn't coach because one had an emergency appendectomy and the other one had a heart attack. Like, those are
What are
the
the
kind of
odds?
right? Those are the kind of things that I've discovered, rediscovered, just digging into these, and there's so much more.
Yeah. And I think that's what shouldn't be lost in all this. This isn't just about uniforms. This is about history, as we've kind of said a couple different times, the different ways at this point. I've learned, a lot of different things from you over time. And that's what I think is, I find the most valuable about what you do with the Auburn Uniform Database. I was going to ask you earlier, when did you feel, and the answer may be, I'd never have felt that way, but when did you feel comfortable, how far into this journey of 10 years to say, I have enough to feel pretty solid about my expertise in this area? Is that
Ooh, that's a good question. Um,
acknowledging that it's always growing, it's always changing, you're never
yeah,
going
I
to be
mean,
perfect, but
it's funny. I mean, you called me an expert. Avery's called me an expert. I, I I'm not gonna call myself an expert, but I am confident in what I have. And there are days that I question why I drew this on the uniform or why I said that, and then I just had to remember, like, just trust the research. Like, hey, Floyd, um, just trust your research and trust that you did it right 6 months ago or 3 years ago or 8 years ago or 10 years ago. There's while you can always rediscover new things, you know, the way I mocked up that uniform was accurate the day that
yep.
I did it. I didn't make that mistake on purpose. If I see something new, um, no, I think that I realized pretty quickly that, like, I'm the only one that's doing this, and I've never been afraid to admit that I was wrong on something. Um, so if the new information comes up, I know that I can, um, I can go back and change if I need to, or admit that something new came up. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of digging into history, is to discover things that haven't been known or haven't been known in a while, or any of that kind of stuff.
Avery brings up a good point here. Clint is more of an expert than anyone in caps on Auburn Twitter and apparently Auburn threads now, if that's going to be called a thing. He says that's for sure. So Auburn Twitter could say a lot of things about it. It's good
place
for getting conversations started, but if you go deep into those things, if you invest too far much in that, sometimes you'll learn very quickly that it's not as valuable as you think it is. However, it's a good way to, again, find information. And I'm sure that you've connected with some people through
Absolutely.
Auburn Twitter out there. One of the things that I found fascinating, kind of take it away from Auburn a little bit, but still keep it connected, was when I realized, oh, this isn't just a Clint Richardson interest. This is a other fan base interest too. And even outside of college, like when I met somebody who runs the Florida Uniform Tracker, or Gator, is it Gators Uniform Tracker? Is that, I forget.
Gators Uniforms. Yep.
Gators Uniforms. I was like, oh, this isn't just an Auburn thing. This is legitimately a
which
thing.
is funny, because that was at our uniform tailgate at the 2019 Auburn Florida game. So that was fun. But yeah, I mean, you're totally right. This is one of those things that, like, I know that I'm not the only person that cares. I have a group chat on Twitter with a couple of other guys that do very similar work that I do, and I think there's 11 of us in this group chat, 12 of us maybe, and that's Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Florida, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, West Virginia. We've got everybody covered in our group, and we're always trying to figure out, like, like I said earlier, the kind of pipe dream is to have every single school, every single P5 school covered. And that's I hope we get to that point one day.
So, and I'm going to give a shout out to someone here. Locked On, you're going to be the Locked On Uniforms at some point, and you're going to be leading all of that. So we'll come up with a different name, just like the Uniform Tracker Network or something like that.
We've talked about this in our groups.
I'm divulging. See, I've been allowed into the circle just a little bit, and I'm divulging too much information. So now the Uniform Mafia is going to come after me. Clint's going to act like he didn't know it was coming, and then when I'm taken out, y'all will know what happened, but Clint will act like he didn't know what's going on. See, y'all are an interesting bunch. I will tell you that much. Y'all are very much an interesting crew. But I enjoy learning so much from you guys every single time we get together, whether it's you or I get to meet one of these Uniform Tracker people or what else. Fun fact, Michael Floyd says, Clint is one of the founders of the Auburn Jungle. So
indeed. Michael is keeping the legacy running, and I am so proud of him for it.
Yes, he is. He's doing many things. That is just one of them as of this point. And I saw your note earlier. We'll make sure that is taken care of for you, Michael.
Did I not?
I know, that's what I'm shocked about. I'm shocked that it's not, because I thought it was like an automatic thing if you were already.
Well, if Freds would actually allow me to switch accounts like I can on Instagram, that would be taken care of.
There we go.
I don't want to deal with logging in and logging out and logging back in.
All right, so let's take a walk back through Auburn Uniform Database history and just and thinking about it.
Okay.
What was the most favorite thing that you ever pulled off with the Auburn Uniform Database? An image, an article, or I found out this piece of information. I met this person because of it.
I mean, there are so many of those.
Correct answer is you met me.
Okay. Who are you?
That's fine. That's fine.
Just a couple of months ago, I released a story about Randy Brown, who designed the now old Auburn Band A. He designed the Barfield era Weagle decals that were on the helmet for a couple of years. He also designed the 100th season of Auburn football logo that was used in 1992. That man has done so much and doesn't get nearly enough credit for everything that he has done. But got to meet him in person, got to meet his son George, and they are just an incredible family, and they were so much fun to hang out with, and that was just a story that I was honored to tell, even just a little bit of it. Um, just a couple of months ago as well, released a story. You and I have talked about it before about Auburn football wore green uniforms in the 30s because Jack Marr was a Notre Dame grad, and it was a measuring contest with all his fellow
Thank you for checking yourself.
with all of his fellow Irish grads, and he kind of tried to one up them with the green jerseys that clearly didn't fit. um I This one gets kind of buried, but a couple of years ago there was a photo of Tucker Frederickson in the Auburn locker room, and it was kind of a GQ style photo shoot,
I'm imagining it.
and he's a good looking young guy, and um, in the background is a helmet, is an Auburn football helmet that has a logo on it that is a tiger head. And I did some digging, did some research, talked to a couple of people. I even got to talk to Tucker Frederickson himself. Um, I was not prepared to interview this man, and I was not a very good. It was a 2-minute phone call, but to say that I spoke on the phone with one of the legendary Auburn football players was an honor. I got to interview the vice president of product development, I think, at Russell Athletics because of the new shoulder pad system that they, along with now former Auburn head equipment manager Dana Marquez, had developed. Um, they sent me a sample pair of shoulder pads to try out and check out, and of course I put it on and I couldn't get it off because I'm unathletic and
Because
white.
I'm unathletic.
Um, so it was, there's a lot that's really been really cool about what this has allowed me to do, and where it's gone, and just the stories that we've been able to tell.
So I find it interesting that Dana Marquez leaves right before you have your anniversary. I know they're not connected, but I'm just like, man, couldn't he have just waited for like another week just so that that part wouldn't have all mixed in all of this? Because you've had conversations with Dana, at least a few.
I have
No,
not,
no, I
actually
thought we had
not.
talked about this. Oh, I'm sorry. I
No.
thought you had conversations with him, but it sounds like he's going off to interesting new
Yes.
things. So, but I guess the end of an era is just the beginning decade for you,
New
and now
decade.
you get to know a new. We don't know what's going to happen with the equipment hierarchy at Auburn yet, but you probably can make some guesses. But I'm sure you'll be on top of it and let us.
I have some new connections, so
Yeah, I
we're
would
good
bet
there.
you do. I would bet you do. What's the worst thing that you have created, found out, that's safe to talk about? Like what? Like if you think back through your history and go, "I wish I'd done this better," or "I just hate that happened," or I wish I never knew that." You know?
There are some things that just kind of ruin the illusion,
Yeah.
um, and that's not worth sharing here. But I mean, there's not really many negatives in
Hmm.
that sense. I mean, of course, there are a lot of really bad designs that I've put out, a lot of bad content that I've posted, um, some things that I probably should have worded differently. But I don't go back and delete things. I don't kind of censor myself like that. I kind of just we're just gonna run with it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Like I said earlier, I'm not above admitting that.
Right.
Um, I had a comment years ago on Twitter that I kind of take to heart. Of this person on Twitter said, "Thank you for never being clickbaity," and I don't. I give it to you for what it is because that's what I want to be. That's how I would want to receive it if I was on the other side of it. So No, not a lot of regrets in that sense, at least none that I can think of right now. That
Well,
otherwise I pushed them into the back.
yeah, well, I was gonna say it's either that, but I would also say if you're doing this level of content creation and gathering, you've got to have much more good that outweighs the bad. Even maybe what you run into is what you said, a little bit of the illusion breaking. If you've ever, I'm going to equate to something, that's also big in my life. You go to Disney World and you
Of
find
course,
out
of
things.
course.
If you find out things that how it operates, how the magic happens, you're like, ooh, I
Yeah.
wish I didn't. I didn't know that. But
Well, and when I graduated high school, a buddy and I came to Auburn together, and we had always talked about we're both going to work for Auburn football. We're both going to do this together, and that's how we're going to do this. And he did. He came down here, and I honestly wasn't even aware that he had pursued it. But I met with him after our freshman year, which was 2012, which was an awful football season, obviously. But he told me, he's like, it's a good thing you didn't do this because it would have ruined your outlook on Auburn athletics.
yeah,
And I take that one to heart too, that I don't want to see how the meat is made. I don't want to see inside the athletics department because I just know that it's not this clean thing that I would like to think it is. I know that everybody's a little dirtier than any perception, and I'm not saying that Auburn athletics is just a horrible place. It's just I
right.
enjoy Auburn athletics as a fan. I enjoy it as a content creator, and I don't want to risk losing that love for Auburn and Auburn athletics.
And then
So
you and then you've
I'm
got
not looking
sickos
behind
like
that.
me. You got
Who are you?
sickos like me that, enjoy, seeing how the sausage is made and then still just consume it by the pound. So,
No.
you know, some of us are just sick freaks, and I guess that's what I am. We got a question from Michael Floyd. Will the Auburn Uniform Database keep up with what coaches football and basketball wear this year? Now, I when I first saw this question pop up, I was like, well, he already has kind of, but this year is what he wants to know.
Only if it's interesting.
Gus Gus did so much for you in the category of
Oh my gosh,
interesting.
did he ever? And I did actually track what Harson wore. What I track and what you see I track are two completely different things. So I did track what Harson wore. I tracked who carried out which flag pregame. Um, Turning that into content obviously was a struggle and was not worth it at the end. But um, if there is any notes of interest, I mean, I didn't even start the Gus Vest tracker until 2015.
Yeah.
So we were 3 seasons in of Gus before I actually touched that.
Well, and there's not too many unique coach attire things out there these days outside of
Right.
Gus's sweaters. It's either a polo. I mean, what's rare is if somebody comes out there in a suit and tie.
The polo is getting rare at this point.
True.
They're just wearing workout gear for many of them.
Yeah.
As much as I don't love PJ Fleck for a lot of aesthetic reasons, but I've always appreciated that he wears a button down and tie.
Yeah.
I love that. I, as a Jaguar fan, Jad Del Rio would often wear a suit once a year, and until the NFL told him to stop doing it because it wasn't an approved vendor. But that's neither here nor there. Um, I just love the different. That's what makes it interesting. And if it's just going to be the same polo over and over again, it's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, do you know the background of the rugby sweater the cheerleaders wear only for the Iron Bowl? I bet he does.
I don't know why it started. I think it might have been something simple as it's what was on the rack at the store, and they just bought one for everybody. But it started in the '80s. I could find, if I had 5 minutes, I could figure
It's
out.
not like you have to go through a decade's worth of catalog in your mind right now,
Right.
on the spot.
I had that on my social accounts. I'd have to just go find it. But I think it was '85 that it started, and they have worn them for every Iron Bowl except at least one. I have found, like, again, this is that you can't talk history if you don't know history definitively. Um, Auburn cheerleader, Auburn fans love to push that they've worn it every single season since that fateful day in the 80s. And there is one Iron Bowl that it was just unseasonably hot in, last week of November, first week of December. It was like 70 degrees, and they did not wear them. And I regret not actually recording what year that was when I discovered it. So, you know, back to back to Avery's question earlier about how things have changed when gathering information. Um, I record everything when I find it. It
Yeah.
used, I don't. It used to be, let me just go answer this question of what hat Auburn baseball wore during the season, and then it turned into get photos of the scoreboard, get photos of the bat board, get photos of, you know, the green monster, get photos of the pants and the cleats, just so that I had that collection together. And this is another one of those things that just slipped through that crack.
So if you ever see Clint out and about and he looks like he's not giving you much, that means he's taking mental notes, jotting things down. Just know this man's mind never stops working in terms of things that he's trying to document because, frankly, in some areas, he's the only one doing it.
Well, I mean, don't forget when we had e2cnetwork.com up and running, I would do a couple, campus construction updates. I have, if it weren't so expensive and time consuming to launch numerous websites, I'd have about 12 of them right now because I
And no
want,
time.
and no time at all. Um, I just always want it to be available that if you want to know a question about literally anything, it's available and it's easily accessible. When did this building get built? There it is. I want to have a collection of Auburn campus maps that are, you know, interactive, or, pictures of what this looks like before it was renovated, or the story behind why it's built like this, or whose name is on the building, and all that kind of stuff. There's so much in my head that I want to put on the websites.
And for those of you that lament, and I mean lament because there are some of you that take it to the extreme about how much Auburn's changing, I can find myself in that camp, but I also, understand that to quote Walt Disney, it's not a museum. Brought it back again. The concept still is
This man brings up Disney in every single one of our personal conversations, just so
probably
everybody
do.
knows.
There's something there because there's a lot. Oddly enough, there is a lot of correlation between some of those things that you would not think is
Well, there's your crazy concept uniform for next year.
exactly. So I'm gonna
Why haven't
pick
you
a.
not done that before?
I'm probably gonna do that now. I'm gonna pick a Disney movie, and you've got to create a uniform around it. But I'm gonna pick like the hardest movie to find any like thing to work with, and then pick the hardest sport for that to. You know what? Swimming and diving. That's
No,
what it is.
no, we talked about that a month ago. Nope.
On that note, let's talk about uniforms a little bit. Um, Obviously, football is an easy pick in this direction of going with this conversation. So is basketball. So is baseball to a degree, just because you are such a big fan of the sport and of the Auburn baseball team. That's why I wore a baseball shirt for you tonight. Um, Outside of the big three, maybe it's an easy answer still. Is there a uniform that you have tracked that you found the most interesting or the most rewarding outside of the big three?
Softball.
Why?
Because there is a definitive start date, there is a definitive collection of history. I only have to go back to 1998. And, after tackling the AUD for a couple of years and kind of hitting a snag on at least football history and just, a little bit of burnout digging in Auburn football, I started the South Alabama football uniform tracker. And because they started in 2010, there was, you know, with football, I only have back to 1934. And I say only because there's still another 50 years that haven't been
Yep.
touched. And but with South, I only have 8 years to work on. I could actually say, here's the complete history of South Alabama Jaguar football uniforms. And the completionist in me just really enjoyed that. So the same thing is kind of in place with softball. While I don't have a complete history, because again, those late 90s, early 2000s are just really difficult to nail down and get really good information for whatever reason. But I have a majority of those. I think I have every single Under Armour uniform that has been worn since 2006 across, you know, men's and women's basketball, baseball, football, softball. So that's 5 sports that are a complete history with the Under Armour logo on the chest. And those, again, that's just it. It goes back to the no history, talk history. I can say I have everything because I've confirmed it. I've turned over every rock. Like I have everything right here.
When's the last time that you turned over a rock that you didn't think could be turned over? Like, you don't even, if it's something you want to keep private because
No,
of
it's good.
connections and such, and like, but when's the last time like you went, wow? Because I got to feel like you have just scoured so much that there's not a lot that surprises you these days, even if it's something you didn't know.
So there are things that still surprise me.
Okay.
But it's when you dive into like the really tiny details. And if you follow the Auburn Uniform Database on Facebook and Instagram, you'll see like these carousel posts that are just diving into just really obscure details, like how the bumper decals on the helmets have changed, or how the hat logo has changed over the years. Those are just really, really fun opportunities to dive in. And um, if I die, my headphones are beeping. That's why I keep losing my train of thought. Um, Diving into baseball uniforms a couple of years ago, and I have one blurry, grainy photo from a Plainsman archive of baseball from I think like 2001, 2002, and they've got white hats on. And I have not seen a photo with white hats in God knows how long. Can't find it. Can't find any other proof during this season about what it looked like or when it was worn. And, I guess it was last year, the year before, when Coach Hal Baird was inducted into I think it was the Alabama State Hall of Fame. Um, the image that Auburn baseball used was a photo of him wearing that white hat that I had not been able to find. And it was a great quality photo. And so I knew that was the one that I was looking for. That was the holy grail of that hunt. And again, that elation of being able to find it. I can't think of anything else at this point, but yeah, that's why you need to follow me on all social media, because I will, if it doesn't make it into a full length article, it'll probably make it into, a social media piece. And if not, it's going on Twitter. And it's just, it's me celebrating the tiniest thing to nobody in particular but myself.
So the next big thing that we're going to have happen for the AUD is that YouTube channel to officially get going that I've been pushing you to have for years.
I want to, but
I know. I figured
if you'll be the editor, I'll do it.
we could talk. We could certainly talk about it.
It would have to be for free because I can't pay you either, because you can't pay me.
I was about to say, I mean, I think it's an understood thing at this point, basically. He goes both ways. So what haven't we uncovered that you wanted to share or celebrate about AUD, your interest in uniforms tonight? I know that's another big question, but we feel like we've gone a bunch of different avenues, but if there's something that you wanted to share about this decade, what would that be?
It's just, it's just been fun. There's a ton of history on this website. There's over 250 combined seasons of uniforms across all of the uniforms that are tracked on the site. There's we didn't even talk about the field designs. The bowl game field designs are one of my favorite aspects of the site. And we've got, I think, all but like 3 of those listed. Gosh, across all 3 social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, there's almost 18,000 people who follow. The website has hit well over 1 million lifetime views. It's probably closer to 2 million, depending on what tracking software you use, but that's a different story. It's just, I always said, like, and we kind of hit on this earlier, like, I do this because I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I don't care if you do, honestly. I don't. But I'm grateful that you, Kyle, that anybody watching, that anybody reading has enjoyed it. That's always such a big bonus. But I dig into this. I post about this because it's stuff that I find interesting and I want to at least acknowledge it for myself. And if one person agrees and finds it interesting, that's perfect. And if 1 million people click on the website link and enjoy it, that's even better.
Right.
And that's just what's, you know, I'm not the only one that cares, and not the only one that cares enough to build a website about it. I had multiple people yesterday say, I'm not the only one that cared.
Yeah.
And, not to get mushy gushy on it, but like
No.
sometimes that's all you need. Like how many stories do you see on the internet of just, that was the only one that felt this way?
Right.
And I know that most of the time that's a much darker and deeper and personal story. And this is just uniforms. But that's the point. Like, enjoy what you enjoy. And there are other people that enjoy it too.
Yep. Definitely. And I think sometimes a lot of people who act like they don't enjoy something are the ones that are, secretly clicking and reading through and then acting like they're the experts.
Yep.
And,
Been there,
but
done that.
we honestly don't care how you found out about the information as long as it's through Auburn Uniform Database. We just care that, we want the Auburn family to become more informed about their history. And
Yes.
this serves that purpose in small ways, but in bigger ways that I think people aren't aware of. I know it's done for me personally, broaden my horizons even more so as someone who preaches about the whole of the Auburn experience, about the need to value things even beyond sports. So that's the next big thing on your horizon, probably, is how you can further get into, if you want to go into architecture design, about buildings and stuff. Look, hey, there is no bounds to how much you can stretch Auburn aesthetics history.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you like Auburn history, go follow Auburn History Today. Daily post about what happened on this day in history.
Clint,
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
the day that I find you documenting what this professor in the liberal arts college at Auburn wore is the day that I will drive. If I'm not in Auburn at that point, I will drive to Auburn, ask you, are you okay? Because I think that's a little far.
Well, kind of related to that.
Show and tell time. Show and tell. I knew we were going to get him at some point with that.
You mentioned the Glom wall earlier. So this is one of the newest additions and one of my most prized possessions now. This is the 1897 Glomerata.
Say that again?
Very first Glomerata ever published.
1897?
Yes.
Did they have books back then?
Apparently. Well, and if you know anything about this time period, it's George Petrie.
Oh, don't bring up George Petrie now. Ooh.
I actually flipped right to it. There is
serendipitous.
There is a photo in this book.
Here, I'll bring it up even bigger. Let's see.
Bring it up.
I'm trying to. It's not working as much as that. Here, we can try this. Make that. There we go.
Works. Look at this man. I have never seen this photo before.
I wouldn't even recognize him.
He looks like a time traveler. He looks like he's from this age. With the whole facial hair, the beard, the mustache. Like, you only see pictures of George Petrie as an old, wrinkly man. Mm-hmm. You don't see this. He was 30 years old in that photo. And now that's on my wall.
So apparently,
that's one of those things of that's what I uncovered this last month.
Right. Apparently, I need to start driving right now because he's already heading down that path.
I'll get a slap in the face in about 2.5 hours.
That's fine. Somebody needs to say, you got problems, man. You're tracking professors now at this point. But anyway, Either
No,
way,
no, we're not doing that.
yeah, I know, I know. I have appreciated your work for the last 10 years, and it's been a joy to watch it evolve and from a more close lens than most people get.
Yep.
And I've enjoyed that journey and learning oddities and watching you frustrate me at times with some of your opinions about uniforms. But even during those frustrations, I've appreciated your work and your friendship and what you do for the Auburn family. So, with that in mind, and wrapping up our decade celebration for you, sir, final thoughts and plugs for you tonight on what people need to do to value this decade and the next to come for you.
Well, it's been a busy summer, and it's going to keep staying busy for the next couple of weeks. So always, always, always follow the Auburn Uniform Database at Auburn Uniforms on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out the website at auburnuniforms.com. Check out the entire celebration of the 10th anniversary and what all comes with the next year's celebration. And just stay tuned. There's so much more coming right now.
I would agree with that. Make sure you check out the link in the description for this video that'll lead you straight to that main article for the 10-year anniversary and to so much more that you want to know. And since you're going to already be there, if I go in that link, check out the rest of the Auburn Uniform Database.
Grab
All the
some
great stuff.
t-shirts.
Grab some t-shirts, discount code that's available to them. He's already choked up because he just feels so good about all of this love that we've been giving him. But obviously on our end, you can follow E2C Network anywhere. Check out the links in the description. We hope to see you on future live streams here. Wednesday night will be our next one at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Clint, if you gathered yourself from that emotional outburst, again,
Good.
for a final time, I want to thank you so much for being my friend. Thank you so much for what you do. And thank you for 10 years of Auburn uniforms and Auburn history.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.